Hello and welcome to this week's Weekly Reading Wednesday. I'm Emma Turton. I'm a medical intuitive, and this week I have been not only guided but requested by one of our beautiful viewers to speak about celiac disease. I'm not only going to speak about celiac disease today, because when I'm tuning into the human body and I'm tuning into this particular disease process, it also encompasses non-coeliac gluten sensitivity and other intolerances to different foods. So if you have any other intolerances to different foods, please do listen in, as this message may hold something for you as well. And now I want to, of course, I'm the scientist first. I want to go into the science behind celiac disease. What is it? Who does it affect? What does it feel like, and what does it mean? I'm going to go into that in just a little bit of very brief detail. So, rapid overview. Celiac disease is an intolerance to gluten that is pathological, that is an immune response that happens in the body that takes us to a place where we are unable to even tolerate the microscopicest amount, that's not a word, microscopicest, and the most microscopic amount of gluten in our diet. So it can take us to that point where our body is in total crisis, even with micrograms of dust of gluten in our diet. Now, what is gluten? Gluten is just simply the protein found in certain grains. And those grains include wheat, barley, oats, and rye. And I know in certain countries in the world, like the US and Canada, they don't class oats as containing gluten, but they do. If you go to any other country in the world, you will find that they are blacklisted from the celiac organizations of all the rest of the world. Their advice is to stay away from oats because they have gluten in them regardless of their processing. It's inherent in the actual grain. The protein in the grain is what the issue is here. So it's like an allergic reaction, but it's a slightly different process in our immune system and our body. So it's called an autoimmune condition. Our body goes into an autoimmune process and starts to affect different parts of our body. So not just the digestive tract. So that's often where we first find these symptoms. It may be bloating, it may be constipation, diarrhea, or a combination of both, or it may be indigestion, heartburn. But it goes so much deeper, because what happens is when a person who is sensitive to gluten or to the protein in these grains, it breaks down the lining of the small intestine. So the small intestine has these little villi, these little natural things that increase the surface area so we can absorb all our nutrients in our small intestine. And what happens is that inflammatory process when we eat any food that causes us inflammation in the villi of our small intestine, not just gluten, but it can obliterate that lining. So we end up with nothing, no surface area or very minimal surface area in which to absorb our nutrients. And so that can lead to other conditions like leaky gut. It can lead to a few other different things. But in terms of gluten sensitivity and celiac disease, not only does it cause digestive issues in many people, although it can be silent. Some people are not diagnosed because they don't know they have it. And it can also lead to thyroid problems, brain problems, mental health conditions. It can lead to headaches, migraines. It can lead to diabetes. It can lead to osteoporosis because of the malabsorption of nutrients in the body. We can lose iron, so we can become anemic. We can lose calcium, so we become osteoporotic or get brittle bones. And so there's a lot of different ways this can present. And in children, it can present as tiredness, irritability, failure to gain weight, or failure to thrive in a child. So it can come as a variety of different things. Even in a change of mood, it can be a sign that there is a sensitivity going on, an issue in the diet, not necessarily celiac disease, but some other sensitivity. And so celiac disease is also special in that we're not born with it generally, and we don't catch it from anybody. It's not that kind of disease process. It's what we develop. But it's also an end-stage diagnosis. So it's not like other disease processes, whether you either have it or you don't in that way. Yes, when you have it, you have it. But up until that point, there's a gluten sensitivity that's undiagnosed until it gets to the end point, which is catastrophic obliteration of the villi of the small intestine. Up until that point, it's not called celiac disease. So at anywhere on that range, that spectrum from absolutely healthy bowel to celiac disease, you may be suffering symptoms or not, and you may be heading towards celiac disease, which may or may not get eventually diagnosed, because the diagnosis process is quite rigorous to get to that point. So you may never ever go down that path of having the biopsies of the bowel and that sort of stuff, and having to eat gluten when you can't tolerate it, and all of the things you need to do to go through to diagnose celiac disease. So the thing is, though, if you are gluten sensitive and keep eating gluten, you are on that track. In particular, if you have the genetics for celiac disease. That doesn't mean your parents have to have it. It just means that they may have carried the gene without having any visible signs and symptoms or diagnoses. And so I'm a good example of that. I carry the gene from both of my parents, and neither of my parents have celiac disease. So I am one of those people who is more likely to go on that track towards celiac disease. But that's me aside. That's just something, if I hadn't gone and had the blood testing, nobody would have ever known that. So it is an interesting thing. Many of us have no idea what our genetic history is. So it's that genetic expression, and what that genetic expression is when it comes to energetic medicine, when it comes to medical intuition. That energetic expression is very important, because of course we can carry these genes, but it's our environment and our beliefs and the way we live our life, our choices in our life, that actually create the circumstances to either activate or deactivate these genes. So we can carry the genes and never develop the disease. And that applies to all diseases, from breast cancer to diabetes to glaucoma to arthritis to any other kind of issue. By all means, yes, we can carry the genes, and our parents or grandparents may have had the condition. However, it is our beliefs, our choices, and our lifestyle that decides whether or not we turn on or turn off those genes, upregulate or downregulate those genes. And that gene expression is what shows up in our lives. So we have control around our genetic expression, which is wonderful. We're incredibly empowered there. So I'm getting off topic there, but that's the thing with celiac disease. It is that end stage. So if at any point you have that genetic tendency towards having a intolerance to any kind of food, but in particular in this case gluten, then we have that point at which it becomes a point of no return. Up until that point, we may be suffering and going, yeah, I can tolerate a bit, it's fine, I just get a bit of bloating with pasta, and it's, I just don't eat that much, or I try and avoid bread and keep it down because I know it doesn't really work for me. And then eventually, with all the right factors, choices, and lifestyle, we can be diagnosed with celiac disease, which is that catastrophic gluten intolerance, which means we have potentially 5 to 10 years less life expectancy, even if we maintain a gluten-free diet. We may suffer more strongly from depression, from schizophrenia, from anxiety, from other comorbidities, including bowel cancer and other things. So it increases that rate of disease and various disease processes throughout our lives. So we want to avoid that diagnosis. But if we have that diagnosis, it's not the end of the world. We still have control there, because we can heal our gut. We can grow back our villi. We can actually stop that process. And that's a whole other topic that I can go into at another time. But what I want to talk about now is to talk more about that intolerance and what that actually means in terms of our energetic makeup, or what that means for us. And so any intolerance, and this is the case for all intolerances. And if you are a specific kind of person who cannot eat more than 5 foods, then something else is going on here. But if you are the sort of person who has 1 or 2 or a small number of intolerances or foods that you may class as foods that you have allergies to, then you are the person I'm talking to right now. Because what that means is that on some level, your body has asked you to upgrade. On some level, your body has said, no more of the shit, no more, excuse my language if you have kids listening, but no more of the crap. I'm not taking it anymore. I'm done. And I am making you stop what you are doing, because what you are doing is hurting me. So your body has said, okay, no more. You need to stop eating this 1 food or this 2 foods, because you are starting to go through a spiritual awakening. So, and that is an interesting link. There is a level of having seen the truth at some point. And particularly if you've been diagnosed with celiac disease, on some level, you have very powerfully been shown your own power, and it scared you. You've powerfully been shown that there is another view of the world, that perhaps you are more powerful than you know, that perhaps on some level you can be the God in your life. And so what we do is we can often pull back from that. And that is this offer, the offer in this disease process and in an intolerance or allergy situation, the offer is to go deeper into your soul. So until you take up that offer, until you absolutely accept that your body does not want the crap in it anymore, whatever that crap may be. It may be something that otherwise would be healthy for somebody else, but every human being is different. I do not believe we all have the same requirements. If you can't eat eggs, you can't eat eggs. It doesn't matter how much B12 or how much iron's in them or how full of protein they are or how nourishing they are. If they are poison for your body, they are poison for your body. And if we choose to not listen to that and choose to not take advantage of that, because that is an advantage we have when we have that knowledge. We know how to feed ourselves and nourish ourselves so we can be healthy, so we can release our joint pain, so we can release our migraines, we can release our muscle aches, and we can release all of our digestive problems and our thyroid problems and our hormone problems when we start to tune into what serves us and what doesn't. And so this deep offer with celiac disease and with non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and that comes in under a separate heading there, because that's that whole spectrum up until the end point is non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and many people are aware that they are sensitive. So if you're on that spectrum, my advice is to stay away from gluten 100%. Eliminate it completely from your diet. It's the one intolerance that you cannot have a tipping point, that you cannot say, oh, I can have a little bit, because if you're at all sensitive, it will lead you down that path towards that end stage diagnosis. So it's not worth having. Other foods, say like eggs and dairy, there may be a tipping point where you can have a small amount and then you know you've done too much because your symptoms come back. But unless you get to the point of having no symptoms, how do you ever find your tipping point? So you have to actually embrace getting to know your body a whole lot better. But that invitation for celiac disease and non-celiac gluten sensitivity and other intolerances and allergies is that you have been shown, you've been offered the red pill and the blue pill by Morpheus in The Matrix. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the movie The Matrix, go see it, you'll understand the movie reference. But you have been offered the red pill and the blue pill, and you keep taking the blue pill and you think that that's going to be fine, but you've seen the red pill, you know it exists, you know that there is more, and your soul is asking for you to up level, to embrace yourself, to start to nourish yourself on not just a food level, but on that soul level, to really allow yourself to go deeper into who you really are. And that can be a scary process for some people, but it is the most liberating and breathtaking process for all of us when we embrace it fully. It may mean that you make massive changes in your life. It may mean that some of the choices that you've made to get you where you are now and have had glimpses of, hey, wait, there's more. I could have chosen something different, or I can still choose something different. It's never too late. You can choose now. You are able to choose now. You know your power. Only you can know how powerful you are, and see it for what it is and honor that power. Know that you are that incredible, all-knowing, all-seeing being that you've had a glimpse of, and that you are able to orchestrate your life from this point forwards. That is the invitation here. And when it comes to celiac disease and gluten sensitivity having cross reactions with other foods, so there may be a point, and what I'm talking about there, those who have these issues will understand what I mean. If you don't have these issues, what that means is that not only are you perhaps sensitive to your to gluten, that main issue in the diet, but you may also be sensitive to other foods. So the cross reactions with things like coffee or dairy foods or even citrus fruits, and there's a few different things that can cross react. Corn can be a cross reactor because it is a grain. Corn isn't a vegetable, it's a grain. So it reacts in the same way. So these things are invitations for you to get cleaner, because every time we clean up our body, we go up a notch. We start to purify our energy body. We start to purify our vibration and raise our vibration up very strongly. That doesn't mean we need to stay that way forever. We aren't all able to maintain that forever, but it gives us that choice. We know how good we can feel then, and we know what we can come back to after something like Easter, where we've just binged on Cadbury's chocolate. I've just done a 12K walk. It's okay. I actually feel much better now. I felt like I was sweating out all kinds of stuff that I know has never served me. I don't know why I did it. So I'm just saying, you are able now to take yourself to that place if you choose to take the red pill, if you choose to go down the path towards freedom, towards being who you are and living a life that is of your dreams, because you can make that happen. And yes, there may be choices that you may need to make in the process to support you on that path, and some of them may be tricky and difficult. But keep in mind the point. And the point is to get to know you better, to get to support you more, to bring out your inner power and honor it with your choices. Feel free to ask questions in the chat box below, and I will happily pop in and answer them from as they come through after this video. So feel free also to share this with anyone you think who may benefit from it. And I have so much more information about celiac disease that I'm more than happy to share with you, and about intolerances and non-celiac gluten sensitivity. I have a wealth of information, but it's funny because this was requested to me by a beautiful viewer who asked if I've already done a reading on celiac disease. And it's strange because all the recipes I share are gluten-free, and oddly enough, no, I've never done a live video reading on this topic. So it was a wonderful opportunity, and of course it stuck with me since. I had to bring it through to you, because this is a powerful message. And now some children are diagnosed with celiac disease very young, and of course I've had a lot of people say to me, do these messages apply to children? And yes, they do, but when they are young, they also apply to the parents. So this message is for you also if your child has been diagnosed with celiac disease, because this is, our children are an energetic manifestation of who we are energetically. They physically are that manifestation of us energetically. And so we are able to see what happens with our children, and we can shift things for them by shifting things for ourselves. So not just, and you can see that with a baby, when you're calm and relaxed, the baby can sleep. When you're really agitated and stressed out and life is making things hard for you, your baby will scream and won't sleep. So you can actually see it physically in your baby. But when they're a little older, it's not so hard to see, it's not so easy to see. So by all means, yes, this still applies to your child, but what it also means is it applies to you. And when your child starts asking you questions about spiritual awakening, or start asking you questions about other things, seeing things, hearing things, having this knowledge that they don't know how to explain, tuning into their own intuition, then you are able to guide them because you've started to walk that path yourself. And that is one of the reasons, the gifts in this, is that they have been given the gift of a purer body, a body who is insisting on up-leveling, regardless of whether the person feels ready. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute honour once more to be with you all, and thank you to those who've joined me live. It's been beautiful to have you here with me today. Hope you all had a beautiful Easter, and I hope you didn't eat as much chocolate as I did. I'm feeling the effects of it today. It was lovely. I did enjoy it. I ate it with joy, but now I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't eat so much with joy. It's all good. There's time. It's lovely to have you all here today. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Mwah.